Hello students, welcome to Time Online Classes. The discussion today is on the actual AILET 2022 English section of the exam. There were 50 questions that were presented to test takers, and I'll take you through each of them and help you understand the skill that was tested. This will hopefully give you clarity on what to expect by the time you appear for your exam. So please stay with me till the end, and here we go. Okay, so what we have now here is a case study, the first passage, and then there are questions that have been drawn from this content. Read the excerpt from a ruling of the court, Civil Action American Library Association versus USA, and answer the following questions by choosing the most appropriate answer. So this is the content, and then of course there are questions later on. Under strict scrutiny, a public library's use of filtering software is permissible only if it is narrowly tailored to further a compelling government interest, and no less restrictive alternative would serve that interest. We acknowledge that use of filtering software furthers public libraries' legitimate interests in preventing patrons from accessing visual depictions of obscenity, or in the case of minors, material harmful to minors. Moreover, use of filters also helps to prevent patrons from being unwillingly exposed to patently offensive content on the internet. So what is the topic here? It is a public library's use of filtering software being permissible under certain conditions. And what is that condition? Only if it is narrowly tailored to further compelling government interest, and no less restrictive alternative would serve that interest. Okay, so these are the points that you have to be focused on. Further, in the second part of the same paragraph, we read that it furthers public libraries' legitimate interest in which areas? In preventing patrons from accessing visual depictions of obscenity, 1, or in the case of minors, material that is harmful to minors. And apart from that, the use of filters also helps to prevent patrons from unwillingly being exposed to patently offensive content on the internet. So these are the focal points of this paragraph. Select which of the following assumptions is the ruling of the court based on. So the ruling of the court is based on some assumption, and we need to identify what that assumption is. Of course, we've already taken a look at the excerpt of the ruling, and this should guide us. Okay, so A says filtering software is the preferred alternative by the patrons of public libraries. B, filtering software is the most restrictive of all the alternatives used in public libraries. C, filtering software is the only tool that can be scrutinized by the public libraries. Or D, filtering software safeguards the interests of the patrons of public libraries. Now, without giving a thought to why a particular choice is incorrect, the first thing should be to go and read the part from which you can get some confirmation, some clue to answer the question. So, again, keep the question in mind. Which of the following assumptions is the ruling of the court based on? Okay, so here we read that public libraries' use of filtering software is permissible only if it is narrowly tailored to further a compelling government interest, and no less restrictive alternative would serve that interest. Okay, so filtering software is the preferred alternative by the patrons of public libraries, can be eliminated easily. Okay, filtering software is the most restrictive of all the alternatives used in public libraries. We can go with this because it is mentioned clearly that it should be narrowly tailored to further compelling government interest, and it should be no less restrictive. There should be no less restrictive alternatives. So this is the most restrictive of all the alternatives used. Fine. Filtering software is the only tool that can be scrutinized, blah, 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 is absurd, and so is the last one. which says that it safeguards the interests of the patrons. We did not come across any such information, or we did not come across any such fact on which this assumption can be based. So it's clearly out, and we have option B as the answer for this question. I hope this makes sense. Question number 2. What, according to the passage, is the primary purpose of filtering software within a public library? So the main purpose of having filtering software in a public library, does it permit the use of classified materials? Does it check the use of all visual content of a library? Does it record the number of searches made by patrons, or does it prevent the access to inappropriate content? We've read that this is what the objective is, or the purpose is. We acknowledge that use of filtering software furthers public libraries' legitimate interest in preventing patrons from accessing visual depictions of obscenity, unwanted content, or, in the case of minors, material harmful to them. Use of filters also helps to prevent patrons from being unwillingly exposed to patently offensive content on the internet. So it's clear, D is the answer, and we can eliminate all the rest. Okay. The next one, question number 3 from the same excerpt. Which of the following words is an antonym to the word compelling used in the text? So here, this is a vocab based question, and there is a word that's used in the text. What is it? Compelling. We need to find from the options one that is the opposite of that word. So it has to also be kept in mind that whenever we have these kind of questions, we need to know what the word means in context, because at times the contextual meaning is what has to be kept in mind in order to identify either a synonym or an antonym. Okay, so compelling. Yeah, so where has this been used? Here, take a look. Only if it is narrowly tailored to further a compelling government interest. So the adjective compelling has been used to describe government interest. A compelling, forceful government interest is what it means. Now, which of the following is its opposite? We have singular, not working, strange, not working, weak, and popular. Compelling government interest, I told you, is a strong or a forceful government interest, and keeping that in mind, we can eliminate popular and go with C, weak. Okay, so it is option C, where weak is the contextually opposite in meaning to the word compelling used in the excerpt. Okay,